First this evening, a Dateline investigation into one of the nation's deadliest nightclub disasters. A fire so powerful and so sudden, it lit up a Rhode Island rock and roll club like a blowtorch, killing 100 people in its path. Now Dateline has learned more on why this fire may have taken so many lives. Here's Victoria Corderi.
Months after one of the worst fires in U.S. history, the survivors are still haunted by the after images.
Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see the people in the driveway and the flames going up.
Julie Mellini was a bartender at the Station Nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island, where the fire broke out last February 20th. An 80s heavy metal band known as Great White was playing that night. And hundreds of fans packed the place. Among them, sisters Tammy St. Hilaire and Michelle Spence. They were part of a group of 9 friends who were partying at the club, and they are now trying to cope with the loss and the searing memories.
A man that was completely on fire. The whole outline of his body was on fire.
Tammy's boyfriend, George Solitro.
The hands of my best friend's sister. Her hands were burned really bad. I dream about that all the time.
West Warwick is a town full of the walking wounded. 100 dead, scores of others burned. So many funerals and so much heartache.
What those clubgoers couldn't have known, and what Dateline has discovered, is that they were in the center of what could be characterized as the perfect fire. Just like the perfect storm, conditions were so aligned to create an immense disaster, and many apparently did not stand a chance. And why was that? Dateline has found that questionable decisions, sloppy oversight, and bad luck converged that night to set the stage for a ferocious death trap that didn't have to happen.
The club has an unlucky history. 31 years ago, it nearly burned to the ground, but after it was rebuilt, inspectors judged it to be safe. In fact, Dateline obtained fire inspection reports for the last 3 years, which said the club was up to code, but it was not. The owners of the club since 2000, former television reporter Jeff Derderian and his brother Michael, specifically made changes that violated the local fire code, and the fire inspector never noticed. The most significant violation, putting non-fire retardant polyurethane packing foam on the walls to muffle the sound because of neighborhood complaints about the noise. The foam is highly combustible.
How was that missed?
I have no idea how they got by an inspector.
Steve Moyes is a fire alarm inspector for the city of Providence, near West Warwick. He never inspected the Station nightclub, but he is a fire code safety expert, very familiar with the kinds of problems that created the fire trap that night.
When you go in to inspect someplace, and there is foam on the wall, what should a fire inspector do?
They should get the documentation on the material.
And if he or she is not sure,
We've taken a piece of material and taken it outside and just put a match to it and see what happens.
The bottom line, he says, is that's exactly what the West Warwick inspector should have done. Strip a piece off and test it. The owner's decision to put up the foam and the failure by inspectors to detect it laid the groundwork for the perfect fire. The foam is commonly used in the United States in mattresses and in furniture, but there is a consumer movement to ban it for those uses because of its dangerous flammability. Great Britain learned that firsthand and banned the foam 20 years ago.
We were getting a lot of deaths, and there was a big campaign to do something about this.
David Purser is one of the world's foremost experts on fire safety. We went to London to have him demonstrate the flammability of polyurethane packing foam.
we are not showing you exactly what happened that night. We're just trying to take a closer look at some of the factors that likely contributed to the fire. Experts say all non-fire retardant polyurethane packing foam is made up of the same basic ingredients, regardless of the manufacturer. So we purchased common polyurethane foam, and Purser ignited it for us.
We'll just see what happens here. The flames are traveling up the foam.
It's dripping, disintegrating.
It's disintegrating, exactly. Yeah.
In less than 2 minutes, the foam was engulfed. Then Purser put up a piece of the testing foam which had been spray painted black. According to witnesses and club employees, some of the polyurethane foam had been spray painted. Paint manufacturers told Dateline that almost all spray paints are made of the same basic chemicals, and all are extremely flammable. Purser set fire to our painted foam, again not to demonstrate exactly what happened in the station nightclub, but to show the effect of spray paint on the foam.
I'll just apply a flame to this corner, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's much faster. Look at this.
Oh yeah, for the
I mean, are we at a minute?
The foam disintegrates almost instantly.
No, this is 10, 15 seconds maybe. Can you feel the radiation from there?
Very, very hot.
I think we should step back a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at the smoke that's now coming off there. Now I must emphasise that this isn't a properly constructed test, it's just an illustration of the sort of thing that could possibly happen.
There's something else about the foam that was not widely reported. It emits a deadly gas. That night, the gas, hydrogen cyanide, combined with other burning materials, including the dangerous carbon monoxide fumes found in every fire, engulfed the hundreds of clubgoers.
Anybody inside? Well, once those doses get to a critical level, then you very, very quickly become disorientated and unconscious in a few seconds.
Is it possible that a large number of people who didn't make it out alive could have been saved or could have made it out alive had it not been the cyanide?
If we took away the cyanide, it buys people a little bit extra time before they would collapse. So it's possible more of them might have got out of the club.
The testimony of the people who made it out alive was just as Purser described. The smoke was dense and suffocating. The group of 9 friends partying there that night got separated as the fire started and were left to fend for their own survival.
Smoke just knocked me on the ground. I was like, oh man, I gotta get out of here. So I just started crawling.
George crawled to a window and was hoisted out by a stranger.
All you could breathe was smoke, and there was no air going down. So you were like, so then you panicked. I'm going to die. What am I going to do?
Tammy was at the center of the club. Her description about how fast the fire spread echoed what Purser showed us.
All of a sudden you saw the curtains go, and it kept going up, and you're like...
You saw that?
I saw it happen, but at first I didn't realize it wasn't part of the show.
And on this tape, you can see how others might have thought the same thing. Moments into the first number, the band sets off pyrotechnics, fireworks that shoot off in 3 directions. Almost at once, the sparks ignite the foam symmetrically on either side of the stage. But then, within seconds, the fire spreads beyond the stage area. The video was shot by a crew doing a report on, of all things, club safety.
The incredible grief we're feeling cannot truly be expressed by words.
Certainly the Derderian brothers did not intend to hurt anyone, but did they know the foam they used was dangerous? The company that sold it to the brothers would not talk to Dateline, but officials there have been quoted as saying while they carry fire retardant foam, the Derderians bought cheaper, non-fire retardant packing foam. The Derderians say they weren't given a choice and they didn't know the foam they bought was not fire retardant. 2 years before the fire, in an almost incredible ironic twist, Jeffrey Derderian reported on the combustibility of polyurethane foam in mattresses when he was a TV reporter in Boston.
Polyurethane foam. Fire safety experts call this stuff solid gasoline.
The same foam he later put up on the walls of his club. The same foam that apparently helped turn the rock and roll revelers into panic-stricken, caged animals.
And there were people on top of me, and I was crawling, like, with my fingers. I was just, like, scratching at the floor because people were falling on you and punching and wrestling and fighting. It was horrible.
What were you hearing? It was dark, you couldn't
Screaming, swearing. There was a lot of swearing. And then, after a while, it was turned to, like, screams, like horror screams.
Those who were able to fight through the fumes and make it to the front door got caught in a logjam of people trying desperately to push through the entrance.
And I remember, like, we were all sticking our hands out, like our arms were sticking out.
Tammy says someone pulled her from the pile. Then she turned and faced the doorway.
It looked to me like about 100 heads crying and screaming.
And they couldn't be pulled out?
No, they were just stuck there.
Julie, the bartender, saw the same sickening sight.
I seen the people in the doorway go up, and I just couldn't believe it.
What do you mean people in the doorway going up?
They would have put things. It was just packed in there.
You mean they were stacked?
Yeah.
They were burning?
Yeah.
The parking lot looked like a battle zone.
You'd look and you'd see one person a little bit hurt, and you'd look and you'd see somebody even worse off, and just everywhere you looked, there was just somebody laying and somebody worse than somebody else. And
people were just throwing themselves in snow. you know? I mean, it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
In the days after the fire, much was made about the fact that the band used fireworks without permission. In fact, neither the club nor the band had a license to use pyrotechnics. But experts say those fireworks would not have been so deadly if the foam had not been there to accelerate the blaze.
They say it was an accident waiting to happen, because once that perfect fire started, there was no stopping it. No sprinkler system to slow the flames. No modern alarm system that would have shut down the air conditioning fans. Instead, the fans kept running, stoking and spreading the fire.
It shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened.
And how could it have happened? How could a club that caters to crowds be allowed to exist without sprinklers or a modern alarm system? The reason is a Rhode Island law, a grandfather clause, allowed buildings constructed before 1976 to be exempt from present-day fire codes. 38 states have similar grandfather clauses in their fire codes. Small businessmen fight for the laws because of the expense of upgrading. But Moyes says the price paid by those clubgoers was far higher.
Just back to this grandfather clause. I mean, how many times do we have to go through this? How many people have to die? I hope to God that those victims, they didn't die in vain.
Day by day, though, the survivors are not much concerned with grandfather clauses or combustible polyurethane foam. Many of those who lived to tell the details of that traumatic night are still reeling from the simple fact that they survived when so many others did not. Tammy's sister Michelle suffered agonizing burns requiring numerous skin grafts.
She almost died, and I didn't realize how bad she was.
I don't see the person that he was. It's not there anymore. I feel, like I said, very angry and just like, why? Kind of like, why?
That question will be sorted out by a grand jury considering criminal charges and the numerous lawsuits against everyone from the town of West Warwick to the company that produced the foam. Both have denied responsibility. In the end, only 5 of the group of 9 friends survived.
The fire took away my 2 biggest parts of my life, my 2 best friends. We did everything together, you know. We really did. I mean, we went skiing after Christmas. We had a lot of things coming up together, you know, and now it's like, you know, what do I do? What do I do now, you know?
What do you think it is that someone who wasn't there just can't get about that night?
How scared you were.
You just can't understand what it's like fearing for your life for like the 30 seconds that you were in there, not knowing if you could get out.
It was like a war.
I don't think anybody who was there that night is the same person. Anybody who was there and got out, they're not the same person at all.
An attorney for Jeffrey Derderian told Dateline his client did not associate the foam in his television report on mattresses with the foam he put up on the wall of the nightclub 2 years later. By the way, last month the state of Rhode Island eliminated that controversial grandfather clause. Clubs like the station are now required to have sprinklers and up-to-date alarm systems.